If you found this video enjoyable, please leave a like and hell, even subscribe if you want to. It only takes 2 clicks, and push that notification bell just to get the messages for my videos. That would be greatly appreciated. So by the time this video should be released, the ending batch of Stone Ocean should be out, meaning that the ending of the original universe slash the original parts, being 1 through 6, have been officially animated and have ended. And I'm guessing a few of you guys are probably a bit confused, as manga fans were for a very long time. On top of that, I have never really given my opinion slash deeper thematic thoughts on this ending, as it's pretty deep for the whole series, not just the part of Stone Ocean, which when it's understood completely in its entirety, I think makes for a pretty good ending for the part and for the entire franchise up until this point, making it almost damn near perfect, at least for me. And I think the best place to begin is the introduction of Made in Heaven. Pucci, realizing that he doesn't actually need to wait the full 36 hours for the new moon to appear, as he can literally be the new moon, figures that out and now has achieved Made in Heaven, which is now a big problem for Jolyne and crew. After achieving Made in Heaven, time begins to slowly accelerate, getting faster and faster as, well, Made in Heaven is still activated. While activated, non-living things begin to speed up. For example, rain appears instantly and dries off instantly. Machines begin to do their processes a lot faster than per usual. Even the sun, the heavenly body in our solar system, begins to move a lot faster than per usual. Made in Heaven's ability would even start affecting things around the world simultaneously. Slowly, a lot of people would realize this. Jolyne and crew would go on full panic mode, as Pucci has now achieved Made in Heaven and is now kind of the ultimate threat right now. As Jolyne would say, his end goal right now is to get rid of everybody here so they do not cross over into his new world or new universe, quote unquote. Primarily the Joestars and their fate. Eventually, Jotaro and Anasui would come up with the idea that, well, technically the only thing that can really stop Made in Heaven Pucci right now is, well, Star Platinum, the world, and Time Stop, and of course Diver Down. And with a change of scenery going to the ocean for a more tactical advantage here, the final showdown can commence between the group and Pucci, where Pucci pulls a Giga Brain play and outsmarts them all. Using the Joestars' sympathy for their friends and family, Jotaro would be put in a situation where he'd have to either kill Pucci or save Jolyne. And of course, since Jotaro loves his daughter, he saves Jolyne, but he would be 2 steps too late. Of course, that meaning Pucci won and would kill him and basically the rest of the other half of the crew, only leaving Jolyne and Emporio behind. Even then, it still doesn't matter, as Pucci now accelerates towards Jolyne and Emporio. And the best way I could explain it here, Jolyne would do a final goodbye in a sense, as now she sacrifices herself to save Emporio, declaring that he is their final hope. As the universe accelerates to its end as a new world is birthed. In this new world, Pucci would kind of explain what the whole idea of Made in Heaven is, and more or less to kind of break it down for you, not to get extremely deep here, is that more or less Made in Heaven is kind of the idea to kind of see one's own fate and gain peace of mind to overcome your destiny. While good on the surface, you also have to remember this is Pucci talking about this, a man that was influenced by Dio, so it's probably not that good in its entirety. And while chasing Emporio down with this new stand ability that Emporio now has, he would use this stand ability to create 100% oxygen in the room to slowly kill Pucci, which he does, causing Made in Heaven to quote-unquote end, leading to an alternate universe with alternate people. Side note here, it's only the people that have originally perished before the reset that kind of get remade, I guess is the best way to explain it. Now Emporio sees his old friends now rebirthed in a way, leading to the ending of Part 6 Stone Ocean, concluding the chapter, What a Wonderful World. Well, yes, I know that was a bit long. I kind of needed to explain that entire final sequence of events, basically the last 10 chapters of Stone Ocean, to kind of really dig into some details here that I'm going to talk about. And the biggest one I need to explain right off the bat to make everything in this later half of the video to make sense is the name reference slash the song reference with the final chapter of Stone Ocean. Louis Armstrong's What a Wonderful World. To get into my historical and music bag here, Louis Armstrong was a black man living in America in the 1920s up until the 70s when he passed. And if you know your historical knowledge in the Americas, that was not a very good time to be black in the US. One can assume that he did end up seeing slash hearing a lot of terrible and dark things that humanity does to each other. But on September 1st, 1967, a legendary song that basically is worldwide known at this point, What a Wonderful World, would release. An ultra optimistic song looking at the world as he looks at the world's true beauty and and not the darkness that surrounds it. Saying this song is optimistic is a very, very, very gross underestimate. This song is just oozing with just this ultra positive, look at the bright side of everything kind of mentality behind it. It's so optimistic. In his most famous performances of the song, he is consistently smiling and just being happy. Like, the song is that good, bro. Like, just go listen to it. Honestly, I'm just saying if you haven't. But if you're somehow still confused on the idea of it because you're young or something, I don't know, there is a quote-unquote modern equivalent to the idea of the song, I would say. The indomitable human spirit versus the indefinite cruelty of the universe. While it's still kind of a meme format, I guess, at least the basis of the idea is still hyper positive, as while the universe can be cruel and give you bad luck or fate or just evil in general, the human spirit will always push on, looking for a better tomorrow. Emporio kind of represents this human will almost, as to always keep on pushing for that hope, quote unquote. As Jolene said, Emporio was that hope, that human will. But on a reread, or just kind of the reread of the entire franchise basically for me, I think it's a bit different now. You see, that Emporio interpretation can be correct, but I think there is a more correct one, is the best way at least I can put it. You see, the Joestars from Phantom Blood up until this point are technically cursed in a way, is the best way at least I would want to describe it, or at least I can put it into terms that I think a lot of JoJo fans can understand. Thank you, JoJo. Being called a Joestar or a JoJo to a further extent kinda sucks in all reality. Being cursed to hold this burden to defeat Dio and his remnants sucks. I don't really know how else to describe it. Having to every day live with the fact that at one point Dio could rise again, or you have to fight Dio's lackeys or fight other stand users because of Dio sucks. You can't live a normal life, a wonderful life even. But with the Joestars sacrificing themselves, primarily being, Jotaro and Jolene in this case, fighting Pucci to eventually being remade/reincarnated into the new world is kind of a good thing, as now this burden of being a JoJo is gone now, as Jolene's name changes to Irene, meaning she's lost the nickname of being a JoJo, but she is still a Joestar, which still implies, and thanks to some interviews by Araki, that just being a Joestar means that you are this kind of pinnacle of humanity where you're just trying to help. You're that undoubtable will. And seeing the Joestars go through Dio, Cars, Kira, Diavolo, Pucci, and having to fight all these people in all these different time periods in all these different places to eventually getting this really good ending where they don't have to deal with this burden anymore that they technically won. There is no need at this point anymore to be a JoJo. Congratulations. All the loose ends have been tied, as the entire purpose of parts 4 and 5 for a very long time, even I didn't even realize, is to clear up these loose ends that Dio had influence over. Josuke defended Morio and got the stand arrow out of there. Giorno defeated Diavolo and stopped him from gaining a Requiem. And of course, Jolene did have to sacrifice herself, but even Pucci's gone now. They now all can live a happy life in this new world and enjoy this wonderful world now that they are in. And since I don't think I'll ever have the ability to talk about this topic in a full video, I might as well explain it here. There's also an underlying theme that stands are kind of bad, quote unquote. What I mean by this is, at least in early part 3, the idea that stands are evil was at least an idea that kind of got swept underneath the rug. But ever since then, Araki's kind of planted the ideas that all these bad people keep on getting these abilities that have to fight the Joestars. And that kind of blows. To a further extent, just having a stand kind of sucks. Having to deal with the idea that some other stand user is going to show up one day, as stand users attract other stand users, and probably having to fight that person maybe kind of really sucks. It's this kind of overall pressure that somebody has to deal with 24/7. Even Jotaro realized this during part 4, probably even a little bit before then, causing the events of part 6 to occur, where he has to basically abandon his daughter out of just protecting her from the reality of stand fights and just stand users. If both Irene and Jotaro seemingly have a good relationship in this timeline, it does imply that they don't have stands, or just figured out how to kind of weave around the fact of having to deal with stands, which kind of drives my point through that stands are just kind of bad to have. They are literally the problem for the later half of the first universe, and eventually are kind of major both in part 7 and 8. Not to mention their literal reincarnations, or their remade selves, were brought into this new universe was because of a very, very powerful stand. And on the off chance they just got rid of them completely, I think this is slightly better for them, as now they can just live normal lives. And I think that's just, in the case of JoJo's, pretty wonderful. That sounds nice, at least for the Joestar clan, personally speaking. Which brings me to New Moon Pucci and Made in Heaven, and what they kind of represent as a whole before the New World. You see, in a way, New Moon Pucci and Made in Heaven represent all past main villains, at least in some regard, and how the Joestars have to fight this totality of a villain. As Pucci represents Dio's ideas, the ideas of perfecting a form / trying to achieve a new form, that being represented by cars. And through that perfection, you get peace of mind, which kind of calls back to, at least, and not in that phrasing of words, to Kira. And with Diavolo, I guess the same idea still applies with achieving power or a new form, but I'd like to emphasize with the Diavolo influence maybe there, that it just represents the idea of just trying to gain power to rule, quote unquote, that fate. And when Jolyne / Emporio beat that villain, that means they've won. They've beat the totality of what the universe had to throw at them. But I won't lie, this might be a case of apophenia where I'm putting connections and meanings where there probably really isn't any to begin with. But I would like there to be, as it kind of ties a nice bow on top of all of it, I hope. And since I am talking about the ending of Stone Ocean, I know there's going to be a lot of people that criticize me or just say, but what happened there? Aren't you mad there's a couple like loose ends or plot holes? I'm going to be honest, most of them are just asking why certain characters didn't show up during this final fight, quote unquote. And I'm going to be real, they aren't needed. There's no reason for them to be here. To be honest, yes, Jotaro could have called Josuke or Okuyasu or, I don't know, Rohan or somebody like that, but it's not needed here. The ending's fine as it is. And there are certain plot elements that kind of set up that nobody really is going to help them. It's just that crew and Jotaro. Also, this idea that when a character dies, it means they lose is really, really dumb, because there's a lot of things in fiction and real life. When somebody dies, it just doesn't mean it's the ending of something. It can still go on forward. To be honest, it's probably better a lot of these characters did get reincarnated / remade in this new universe, so they don't have to deal with their past struggles. So them dying is probably a good thing, unironically here. And I know with those new people that ask questions like, what happened to the timeline? What's been altered? To be honest, some characters are just gonna look at their family trees a little bit differently. That's all I could really give to you. I'm not the author, I'm just the reader trying to interpret things. So with that being said, and all the information I've provided, at least in my personal opinion, maybe I've even changed some of your guys's, I think Stone Ocean's ending is damn near perfect, or just really, really, really good. Just in my thoughts. I think it genuinely takes somebody on a higher level of thinking to understand it, and that could be a fault on Araki's part, just kind of rushing it or just not explaining it well enough, but you know, I think it's good. So that's going to be the end of the video. Like, comment, share, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, stay hydrated. See you in the next one, ladies and gentlemen.